Hey everyone, welcome again to yet another episode of the Industry Show. Joining us today is Rina Mehta. Hey Rina.
Hi.
Thanks for having us here in
Thank
this
you.
beautiful home.
Thank you for having
Fresh,
me.
beautiful home.
Yes.
So, thanks for making time.
Sure.
And let's get started with you and, where did you go to school? Where were you born? And something about your parents.
Sure. I was actually born in Oklahoma City.
Oh.
But I moved, my family moved back to India when I was very young. And I went to a convent school in India for my primary schooling and did my middle schooling here in LA and high school here in Los Angeles. And then I was very fortunate to attend UC Berkeley for college, both my undergraduate and my graduate degrees. Yeah.
Wow, so you've been around.
I've been around. Yeah.
Nice.
Big life.
So what did you go to school for?
I studied science, molecular biology, as an undergraduate,
Nice.
and then I did my graduate degree in public health.
Great. So is that what your parents wanted you to do?
No, I had I was very fortunate whenever I would ask my parents, whenever I was confused about school or what I should be doing with my life, they would actually only tell me one thing, which is that you have to do what makes you happy.
Nice.
Which was a good answer, but very infuriating. Sometimes you just want someone to tell you what to do. Yeah. So I fumbled around a lot. I was very, very apt in science and math, and so the hard sciences took, I took interest in the hard sciences. And at one point in time, very, very briefly considered medicine. But I had the fortune to work in Delhi in a tuberculosis clinic that was serving one of the slum areas. And it was actually after that experience that I chose to do public health. I really wanted to try to address the structural factors that affect a person's health and happiness. So I went the public health route. And actually in public health, I studied women's empowerment and the link between women's empowerment and health outcomes. And I was studying Indian classical dance alongside all of my studies all throughout my life, pretty much. And I kind of took a circuitous route to the dance because I realized that you can change the house somebody lives in, you can change the city someone lives in, but how do you change how people feel inside of themselves? And I found that art was one of the most powerful vehicles to facilitate transformative change inside oneself. Right. So I kind of, decided that dance was a good way to achieve public health.
Wow. Nice. Interesting. Okay. Yeah. So, we kind of jumped a few steps there, but I like that. So how did it kind of come about? You're working in public health. Was this while you were in Delhi that you decided that you want to, kind of jump into art full time? And so how did the Leela Institute come about? And, why Leela?
Yeah, so I had the great fortune to study Kathak with Pandit Chitresh Das. Yes. And I started studying with him as an undergraduate at UC Berkeley. After actually I had already worked in Delhi. And so my studies with him kind of continued all throughout my undergraduate degree, while I was working, while I was doing my graduate degree. And it was a very transformative experience for me. He was a very demanding guru, and he had a great big vision for the art form and a great big vision for every single one of his students. But it took a lot of work to rise to his vision. And so the experience of reaching and rising and reaching, I was training with him from the beginning 4 days a week. Wow. And so that process of, every day coming onto the dance floor and reaching and pushing your own self beyond your own perceived physical limitations, over time, it made me who I am today. It really, really forced me to change physically, emotionally, spiritually. And so, again, as I was doing my dance and my work side by side, I came to a point where I had to make a choice. I really had to choose. I couldn't do great things in public health and great things in the dance. And to be honest, I just couldn't let the dance go. So it wasn't, some great big decision that I made. It was just, I just kind of...
It was the right one.
It was just, the decision I think had already been made for me. And all I had to do was kind of step into that decision. So I chose to dance full time. That's when I chose to move to Los Angeles. And I really needed my family's support, and they live here. And so, I had already been performing with his company, the Chitresh Dance Company, for many years, and working at his school, the Chandanbala School of Kathak. But when I chose to do this full time, I moved to LA, and we decided together to start something new here in Los Angeles. And it ran under the Chandanbala School for many years. But eventually, it became really important for us to have a strong base and a strong identity here in Los Angeles. And so we chose to start our own 501c3. And that's when the Leela Institute was born in 2015. Wow. Very, very recently.
Very recent.
Yeah.
Nice. So, let's talk about the dance for a bit, right? So, your guru kind of taught it in what I understood, in a very special way. So you were also singing while you were dancing. How does that even work? I mean, just physically, just the dance itself is so, it takes a lot from you. How do you keep your pitch and tone and rhythm? And it just seems like so much.
Yeah, he, Guruji he had a completely unique approach to the art form that he developed over many, many years. And like I said, he had this vision for this art form to be a vehicle for really inner transformation and spirituality. And so the singing is a big part, and all of the great masters, there is no separation really. Once you get deep enough between dance and music and rhythm,
comes within.
All of it is one. And the great masters still teach like that. They always have, and they still do. And so he was a great master. And so he never, for us, it was never like, oh, we are singing and dancing. That's just what you did. You walked into the class, you sang, and you danced. And we didn't even know that it was something unique we were doing until much later. And until we saw that actually music has gotten so divorced from Kathak dance in the last 150 years. A lot of dancers don't understand music anymore. They certainly don't sing. They perform to recorded music, not even live music. So, it is really challenging because the breath control you have to have, and the sheer physicality of the dance is already so intense. So it's just training, but you just train and train and train and train and train till you get it. That's kind of my Guruji's training.
So what kind of singing was this? Hindustani classical?
Yeah, absolutely. Guruji was deeply, deeply influenced by one of the greatest artists of Indian classical music, which is Ustad Ali Akbar Khan. When Guruji came to this country, he actually came to the Ali Akbar College of Music in 1971 when he came to California. So, I tell all of my students, listen to music, and you have to listen to Ustad Ali Akbar Khan because his music is in Guruji's dance. So that was a big influence for him as far as musicality is concerned.
And Pandit Chitresh Das is widely recognized as the person who brought Kathak to the US. So I'm sure that kind of played into it and helped growing Kathak and at least getting recognition for it.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, he worked in this country for 40 years. And he used to tell us the stories of his first students, and he would say, all my students were blondes and brunettes, because in the 70s there were very few Indians here. So he trained, so many generations, and such a diverse group of students that really have actually taken on this art form and are working very hard to carry the legacy of the art form and his legacy forward.
Right. So when you made the decision, we have so many different art forms in India. Why did you pick Kathak?
Absolutely because of Guruji.
Okay.
Again, I like to tell people that I think if he would have been a martial artist, I would have studied martial art. He was such a visionary and So he had such a firm belief in each one of his students' ability to realize their greatest potential, and he was dedicated in a very similar way to a mother or a father is to their child. He was that dedicated to each of his students. And so it really was his vision for the art form and his way of teaching that inspired me to follow him and the art form.
And you found out or you heard about him while you were in Los Angeles or back in Delhi?
No, at college.
Okay, well.
Yeah, at UC
yes,
Berkeley.
yeah.
So I actually was looking, I had studied Bharatanatyam as a kid.
Okay.
And, you know, Bharatanatyam is widely available,
Yes.
much more so.
Yes.
At least it was back then.
Right.
And I had wanted to continue my study of Bharatanatyam. And a friend of mine, a friend of a friend said, come to this Kathak class. And I said, no, I don't want to study Kathak. And it was because my impression of Kathak was what you see in Bollywood movies,
Right.
which is that you wear pretty clothes
Yes.
and you do nakra, and, you know, that's Kathak dance. And I had no desire to do that.
Right.
I had, in my mind, the perception was that Bharatanatyam was more
More
serious,
pure, yeah.
more traditional,
Right.
and more physical.
Right.
And it's completely the opposite. It's completely, Kathak is so, at least, especially the way Guruji taught it, it's so physically demanding. It's, you know, athletic, it's music and dance and all of those things combined. So I'm very grateful for having accidentally almost stepped into his classroom on Telegraph Avenue.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So do you also teach singing to your students?
We do. We have a big focus on music. So we teach it in the class alongside with Kathak. We sing and we dance in class every day.
Nice.
But we do have a lot of guest faculty that come and do pure musical training.
Okay.
And we start the kids, you know, we start everybody young. From the beginning, the music and the dance happen side by side.
Yeah, like for our kids, you know, we're teaching them both. We're, you know, helping them go learn Bharatanatyam, and then they're singing Hindustani classical, but it's not together. So I can only imagine, you know, having that experience together is so much more, right? It's 1 and 1 equals maybe 5.
Yes, absolutely. So, absolutely. It completely transforms. You know, the reason I think Guruji was so insistent on the singing is because for him, everything was about feeling, right? Art comes from here. It comes from your soul and your heart. Yes. And so it's not a series of steps. And so the music and the singing helps you engage more of your being.
Yes.
The minute you sing a bhajan, you're transported, right?
Yes.
So I think the music is such an important way to access the place from which art comes from, you know, in your own self.
And then it just lets you go out and explore it.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. So, you know, bringing this back to the Leela Institute, we kind of talked about how you got started with it. And then in the past 3 years now, tell us a bit more about the scale of operations, how many students, how many teachers, and how many locations are you performing in, and so on.
Yeah, so we have a small school here in Los Angeles. We have about 50 students.
Wow.
And we're very lucky again because Guruji created so many disciples that are carrying this work forward at a very high level. And so we actually work very closely with a set of affiliate schools that are also run by his disciples around the world. Yes. So we have our affiliate school in San Francisco, in Boston, in Bombay, in Toronto, in Denver. Wow. And what's great is that, you know, we're all very aligned in terms of the way we teach the art form. So we have a great deal of a very big community of students and teachers that make up kind of our work. In terms of our performances, right when the Institute started, one of the things that is really important for us as our mission is to really elevate Kathak on the world stage. Yes. So, you know, we believe that Kathak dance belongs on stages all over the world at the highest level. And so part of our work is to create large-scale productions that take the art form there. So we have 3 major productions. Right. Speak, which is a Kathak and tap collaboration. Son of the Wind, which is a dance drama based on the Ramayana and Hanuman's role in the Ramayana. And then California Gharana, which actually is a pure dance piece that highlights the way Guruji influenced and shaped Kathak dance. So those 3 productions are touring, you know, around the world. They've kind of had their premieres here in California, both in SF and LA. Both productions are traveling to India
Right.
in January and February, and we are touring both the productions around the U.S. in the fall of 19 and spring of 2020.
Nice.
So everywhere from Denver, Florida, North Carolina. So, you know, our scope is, we're hoping, we believe that these works should be seen by audiences around the world.
And what I found unique is, you know, there are dance schools and dance institutes, but you're taking a very different approach from what I could see. You're kind of looking at this in terms of productions, but also kind of, you know, the one question I had was, are we going to see these on Broadway soon, right? Because we should.
Yes.
Right? So is that kind of where you're planning to go with this?
We would love that. That
Awesome.
is absolutely a dream of ours.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So one other thing, you know, you mentioned the 3 productions. I also remember reading, was it Chandanbala? So is that a production? Is that kind of
It's a solo work.
Okay.
Yeah. So the productions, you know, are usually large. They involve many artists. And then each one of the dancers that works with Leela, especially the senior dancers, all, you know, really develop their individual works. So Chandanbala was an individual work, a solo work that I had done, in large part because the Jain community was so helpful to me when I first came to Los Angeles.
And you got a lot of recognition for that.
Yes.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah. That story had not been done, I think, in Kathak before.
Yes.
And so it was a very personal story to me. And although I'm not Jain, my experience with the Jain community was very, very deep and profound. So, yeah.
Wonderful, amazing people.
Yeah.
Yes. So, in terms of, you know, you mentioned these collaborations that you have with other dance institutes. So when you start about with a production, how does that work? You know, from it's not just art at that stage, right? And we're kind of trending closer to your entrepreneurial aspect of how you kind of put this together. So talk to us a bit more about what the logistics look like.
Yeah, so, you know, the Leela Institute, as I mentioned, was started in 2015, but we developed the programming of the Institute very slowly. So the programming has, you know, 3 big kind of elements. One is the school, which is our educational work, and one is our productions, and one is our endowment.
Yes.
And the work around our productions and our performing company was actually conceived of and started by a few of us. So my guru sister Rachna Nivas and Sebi Lee, both of them are senior disciples of Pandit Chitresh Das, as well as my fellow guru sisters Sarah Morelli and Shefali Jain. So the 5 of us actually, 1 year after the Leela Institute had started, got together and said, you know, we need to form something that is going to take the art form forward in terms of performances in a big way. So the 5 of us started this collective, and many other dancers have come into the mix. So our collective has, you know, 13, 14 dancers that work together. Sebi Lee, Rachna Nivas, and myself are principal artists of that. And so, you know, we take ideas from everywhere, but the 3 of us really drive kind of the decision around, okay, this is a concept, and now we're ready to take it into making it into a production.
So it's you're more in the kind of you're the directors, producers, you kind of decide what to get together.
Yeah, we definitely serve as the artistic directorship of the performing collective. And, you know, all of our productions, they do take at least 3 to 4 years from concept to premiere. They take a long time. And so we usually do you know, there's a lot of music development. So we work with Jayanta Banerjee, who composes most of our music. So we usually develop a score, which takes, you know, several months. The choreography takes several months. We usually do a work in progress. It's like a first draft of an essay. You don't know until you're on the stage what's going to happen. And then we go back to the drawing board. We make edits, we change, and then we, you know, premiere it. And then even after the premiere, it keeps evolving. You know, we keep trying to make the shows better and better and tighter and tighter. And in that way, it's not any different than a book someone might be writing or a movie somebody is editing. You just keep a painting. It's kind of never done. But yeah, and for us, the other big piece of it is fundraising.
Yes.
Our productions, because we have such a big vision, require big money. And so fundraising, we spend a good 2 years raising money.
Makes sense.
To, for a lighting designer and a production manager and all the costuming and all the music development. So it takes about that long for us to raise the funds, do the creative work. And we're just now in the early stages. So 2 of our productions, 3, are touring, up and running. So we're now in the stages of trying to think about what we want to premiere in 2021, 2022.
Right.
Yeah, that work starts now for us.
So, talking about that scale of operations, on the flip side of it, when you look at the artists, and I did some reading in comparison, and you have your annual reports that you publish.
Yeah.
I saw the amount of money that an artist makes is nowhere close to what other artists are making. I'm sure that presents a huge challenge for you.
Yeah. I think this is the great big tragedy of Indian classical art. And, I had the great fortune. So when I was with Guruji, I performed in his company and I taught in his school. But another big part of what I did was help fundraise. Because there was always the need for us to raise funding. And I did that work for 10 years. While I was working in public health, I was dancing and helping fundraise for the productions. And I came to understand that, most dance institutions or music institutions, they're just trying to get by.
Yes.
So, you go and get sponsorships, you try to write a grant, and then you spend the money on the big show that you're going to do, and you're right back at zero.
Yes.
And I did a lot of research to try to understand, is there a different way to do this? And I was very, very inspired by the infrastructure that exists in this country for classical arts.
Yes.
So, every major city has a ballet, every major city has a symphony, and all of those institutions are supported by large, large endowments.
Right.
And the endowments, I think, are a sign of individuals and the community rising up and saying that we are proud of who we are, and we are proud of our artistic traditions because they represent this. They represent the deepest part of who we are. And I think that, we as an Indian community haven't yet had the opportunity to do that. We're a young country. The country's young. We're a young community. We're a young diasporic community. And so I just think we haven't had the chance. I think we have the chance now. And I'm really inspired by so many first generation Indian Americans that are now getting very active philanthropically. And the desire now to give back to their culture and their heritage is very strong and inspiring. So I think that we're in the right moment. And I think the challenge that we have is to help people understand why art requires patronage. Most people, when they think of dance, they think of entertainment. That's what we know. Bollywood movies are entertainment, and so we think of dance as entertainment. But art is not entertainment. Art is, something that transforms you, something that elevates your consciousness. And it is a knowledge tradition, just like a language. Just like Sanskrit, so is Kathak, so is Sangeet. And so it needs to be preserved, and the teachers and the artists who are the ambassadors, and these are oral traditions. So you can't write and read Kathak. So supporting artists is key because they are holding the knowledge here.
They're keeping it alive.
Keeping it alive. And so that's the reason that we started the endowment campaign at Leela. And we were, it's so interesting. Everybody told us not to do it. You're just starting. You're not going to have enough money for operations. But we learned the hard way, because when my Guruji passed, financially, that organization, he was the main. He was it. And so when it came to fundraising, people were like, oh, they have a star artist and a guru. The minute he passed, the fundraising power of the organization diminished, and we hadn't built anything for the future. And so I certainly don't want to make that mistake. number one, I want to build something for the future. And number two, I want to advocate for artists to make a living wage. You know, a lot of times when we have one performance, people think, what, the artist fee is that much? But what people don't know is the hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of practice that artist has done in a studio that they've probably paid for themselves to give you that artistic product that's on stage that makes you cry or laugh or stand up and do a standing applause, standing ovation. So advocating for artists making dignified wages is a big part of what I do.
How difficult or easy is that? Because I think in a lot of ways we might be taking things for granted, right? Like everyone goes in, as a kid learns how to dance. So do we just kind of expect people to do it without having to put in those hours and hours of work? Is that kind of what's happening?
Yeah,
here?
I think that there's just not a lot of knowledge about, I don't know how much people can tell or how much people want high quality Bharatanatyam versus a mediocre quality versus a very low quality or Kathak. I don't know that as a consumer, and again, this is why I think art requires patronage.
Yes.
Because, if you leave it to the market, then it becomes a consumer-driven endeavor.
Yes.
And again, the whole point of art is to elevate us.
Right. Not make it a commodity.
Exactly. So I think patronage is really important. I just think that the perceptions around art and what art is are really, really skewed. Because there's just not enough education. Nobody knows. Nobody knows, how long it took me 4 years to be able to do one chakkar, one pirouette. So I don't think people know actually the kind of training that goes into the art form and the economics, because I meet a lot of people who say, well, why isn't there a financially, when are you going to make a financially sustaining model? You have so many students, they all pay fees, but the fees are not enough, right? For an educational institution, right? For the big universities, tuition doesn't cover the cost of the university.
How much do you have at the end of the year?
They have huge endowments, right? The same thing, people think, they look at a full house, at one of our shows and they think, they must have made so much money. There are so many audience members. But the audience members are not paying for the venue and the lighting. And so I think the education around both the standard of the art and the economics of the art is just not there.
Yes. And you're doing a great job of that.
We're trying.
I saw your annual report. That's amazing. So, being able to clearly highlight, here are the 3 KPIs that we want to track, and, looking at how much is coming in, how you're spreading the funds that are coming in, how much goes towards the institute, the operations, the endowment. It was amazing.
Thank you so much. We're trying. Yeah. I mean, the other thing, if you think about it, is, you have girls that are studying classical dance. And so, today in this country, if you study classical music, you have scope for a job.
Yes.
Right? If you study classical Indian dance, what is your scope for employment? There's no job. Right? So for us, I feel like that whole infrastructure is what we're trying to actually create. It's very ambitious. And
I was blown at, looking at some of those numbers. I think it was like 6 figures for a ballerina?
For the high principal, a lot of the principals, and definitely the artistic directors, conductors of symphonies make great money. They work very hard and they're very talented, and they've earned every single cent. Musicians in the large symphonies, but again, it's a sign of what the community values. Somebody put a value on a classical musician and said, that's what that musician deserves. And we have yet to do that, I think.
And you're making great strides towards that.
Thank you.
So I applaud you for taking up this.
Thank you.
It's an extremely difficult endeavor.
Yeah.
But you know that, and you're kind of planning to that. I can see it.
Yeah.
So what are some of the other challenges you face in the industry?
Well, I think definitely times have changed with YouTube.
Yes.
And a friend of mine in the art form said, well, the Guru Shishya, now YouTube is your guru. And so I definitely think that technology has taken us so far, and I think that if we use technology to our advantage, it can do so much for us. But I think there's definitely a great amount of dilution of standard and of the art. You know, a lot of times, and I just want to say that, you know, before I go into my spiel, I love Bollywood, and I grew up on that industry. And when I had no dance classes to go to, I watched Bollywood movies and learned the dances that I was seeing, right? That's what people have access to. But, you know, a lot of times, you know, nowadays anybody can start a dance class anywhere and call it anything. You know, and I'm seeing
no balances,
no checks, no balances, nobody to say, you know, I could put on a pretty costume and say I'm doing Kathak, and nobody's going to tell me that's, first of all, I don't know what that is. And it's certainly not Kathak, and you shouldn't be doing it. You can call it whatever else you want to call it, right? And I think especially in North Indian classical dance, there isn't a lot of maintenance of a standard or policing. You see it a lot less in Bharatanatyam, although even nowadays you're seeing, you know, contemporary Bharatanatyam and, you know, contemporary Kathak. And certainly every artist has the, you know, they have the right to explore, and art is about self-expression. But, you know, self-expression without being responsible gets very, very hairy. So I think some of it is on us as artists and the artist community to be responsible. Yeah, and then I think some of it is on the community to look into its artistic heritage and to say, let's try to understand. Let's
not dilute the art form. You can have freedom of expression, but it's different than kind of
and it happens everywhere. You know, I have gone to so many, you know, I've gone to NGOs that are doing fundraisers for their great causes. And, you know, they will put things on the stage that will sell tickets because they're trying to raise money for their cause, which is their priority. And so I completely understand that. But I've had so many conversations where I'm like, well, you know, you need to be a little responsible about what you put on the platform. You have power. You have power. So I think, you know, everybody, all of us, myself included, needs to be a little bit more conscious of what are we saying when we do the things that we do.
And, you know, in that dilemma of being an artist or being an entrepreneur, right? How do you make that decision? Where do you draw the line, right? Because you're wearing both hats, right? So how do you make that choice?
It's very, very, it's a daily level of conscientiousness. You know, one of the things we're looking at doing actually is we're thinking about putting some of our curriculum online, and that's a that's one of these areas, right? That you're like, the entrepreneurship, the entrepreneur in me says, go for it. The artist in me says, what is it going to do to the tradition? How is it going to change it if people are consuming it? So you just have to do a lot of trial and error, and you have to be very thoughtful. And you're a parent, so I can imagine the number of micro decisions you make in terms of raising your child. Each one you think about so much, and you're like, should we? You course correct, right? You make a decision, tomorrow you course correct. It's the same. You know, we just have to be very thoughtful all the time and responsible.
So what drives you? You know, I mean, there's obviously the art, but as an entrepreneur, as someone who's literally growing the institute, the collective, as a parent, what drives you?
I think definitely the sacrifices that I saw my Guruji make over the years. I think the sacrifices that the artists that I work with right now are making every day. You know, there are so many talented young dancers that want to do dance full time, but there's no scope for them. So they are working at PwC and at so-and-so and at so-and-so, and seeing their lack of ability to actually do the thing that's going to fulfill them. Seeing some of the artists that we work with from India, when you hear about some of their struggles, you know, where they lived, how they didn't have enough money to buy a tabla or a sitar. And they had to scrounge for their first instrument, and how they survive today. They just survive, right? Artists that don't have health insurance.
Right.
The state of the field, I think, is what drives me.
Yes.
And the lack of dignity, I think, that I see given to classical artists is absolutely something. It actually is painful, and that pain, I think, is what drives me.
Wow. What are you most excited about at this point in life?
Well, I have to say that, we stumbled upon this collective model very accidentally. When my Guruji was alive, he was the visionary and the artistic director and the source of kind of everything. And we all galvanized behind him. After he passed, we knew that there was not one of us, his disciples, that was going to rise and artistic direct the rest. And we knew that we had to create kind of a collective model. And so we decided to go down this path, and it was a big experiment. We didn't know if it was going to work. 6 artists, all who have their own ideas, trying to do something together. But it's been phenomenal to see what collaboration and collective creativity is allowing us to do. So, there isn't an artistic director of the Leela Dance Collective. I'm not the artistic director. There are principal artists.
You're one of them.
There are soloists. There are, I might be the artistic director of a production. But we work collaboratively, and we didn't really understand what we were creating, but we actually ended up creating a model where women artists are supporting other women artists. We are helping female choreographers kind of develop their choreographic skills. So while it wasn't intended to be about women supporting women, I will say that is actually what has ended up happening. And we're really excited. The concept of collective creativity and collaboration that is allowing us to create really, really great works of art that I'm really proud of is very exciting to me.
And that has nothing to do with the fact that there are not enough men that are dancing Kathak?
Well, there are men.
There are?
My Guruji didn't have very many male students. So, but a lot of the performers in India, and even around the world in Kathak there are many, many male performers, most of them soloists, and gurus, great gurus. But my Guruji always wanted a male student. He was very disappointed. So he just worked with what he had, which is all of us, and made us into, strong, successful, determined artists and entrepreneurs, all of us.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So any thoughts for other artists and entrepreneurs that are looking to take the route that you have taken?
Yeah, I think that I would definitely say, for as far as the entrepreneurship piece is concerned, I think I would say, just don't give up. I think the only thing that is, I today am where I'm at because I have been very blessed with supportive parents and a guru that taught me and took care of me, and a supportive community. But I think the only thing that I did all through the ups and downs was just not give up. I just kept going. I didn't know where I was going, and I didn't know if it was, just almost stubbornly refused to give up. So I would definitely say it's a long road, but not to give up. And then I think, for people who are thinking about the arts, I say this to my students all the time, especially the adult ones. I say, if there is even this much of you that wants to pursue the art, just do it. Because I actually feel like I waited too long. I think I knew day one, and then I waited and waited and waited, and tried to figure out how to make it work financially. So I think I would say to artists that, just follow that dream of yours, and I think find support and find community, because I think doing it in an isolated way, doing it alone is very
Makes it
difficult.
more difficult.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's difficult. But
it's difficult, but I think those are the 2 mistakes that I made. I think I waited too long to take the step to do it, and I think I thought for a long time I had to do it alone. And neither one of those things are true. You know, if you just take the courageous step of jumping into your dream, things will, it's not so easy. It's not like magic, but it will come after many tears and much hard work and much, frustration. It does come.
Awesome. Follow your dream and the support will come.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Rina. This was wonderful.
Thank you so much for having me.
Good luck with the Leela Institute.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you all.
Thanks. Bye.